Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started together for Sharon.com in her memory. Today's guest is someone means the world to me, and she might not know that yet, but uh, I tried so hard to I don't know how to explain it, but just I see her work and I'm inspired, but it's so touching, and the way she reaches so many throughout the world is just, again, something that I can't even put words. That's the first time in 70 shows I don't think I have words, which will be probably the only time. So I just want to welcome Heather to the show. And again, it's really such an honor to finally get an opportunity to really just share not just your journey, but the things that you do that really touch the world. And I hope you know that you're definitely affecting individuals for the better. So thanks again.
Thank you, and same back to you. I just perused your website and the work that you've been doing extra today, and I must say, I'm so humbled by your service and your loyalty to your mom. I know that you made her a promise, and I really appreciate that. I
Not,
just really appreciate what you've done for our community. Thank
I
you.
mean the world, but like I said, we do this in her memory. And I always say, even if we just reach one person out there who might be like a Heather or like a George or like a Sharon, we change the world for the better. Because I know when I went through caregiving, I felt very alone. I wish I knew about you. I mean, if I had known you then, I would have changed my mother's world. I could just picture the three of us on a Zoom with a FaceTime, you speaking to her. She would have been laughing and loving it. But we didn't have that because didn't realize who was out there. And that's
Right.
when I kind of went on this journey and realized 2 years ago, it wasn't just about my mother and me, it was about everybody, and how we really have to be a family in this fight. But let's turn a little bit more again to you, because that's what today's about. Uh, can you tell us, obviously, you've done so much, and I hope we have the time, but you tell us, how Parkinson's has kind of brought your world to change. And I think there is so much positive and light from what could be darkness. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah. Just wanted to add on to what you
You-
said about not knowing what was out there. When you're caregiving, you're so engrossed in it. It's your whole world. So of course you're not going to pull the lens back to look, oh, what's out here? Because you're so busy handling what's right here. You're in crisis. So, although we do have a lot of resources now, we didn't when I first started either in 2011-ish. Um, However, to answer your question, Parkinson's has changed me by humbling me and helping me see that everyone is suffering. My lens is completely shattered, the lens of old ego and vanity, and I'm still vain. I'm still worried about how I appear and all that stuff. But the truth is, that falls away, all of it. If we don't cultivate other things, if we don't remain in service, we lose our purpose and meaning. And Parkinson's hasn't given me purpose and meaning. In fact, it's removed a lot of the things that I love. I hate Parkinson's. It sucks. But I'm brought down to earth with it. I don't have delusions of grandeur anymore. I'm not going to write the next great American novel before I die. Time is running out. So what I do is I focus on what's right in front of me now, do the best with that. Like, how can I make things a little better with what's right in front of me?
I think that's amazing. And again, I have to keep reminding you how much you inspire so many people, even though you might realize it, but I'm going to make sure that if it's the last thing I do, the world knows how important and special you are. So I appreciate it. I also love the background. I told you already, it's like beautiful art. There's so much, even just seeing you, there's so many things that just excited to talk about. So let's jump right into some of them. Maybe you could discuss a little bit about, stigma, Parkinson's, and also a big one, which the only reason I was able to reach out to you or even become kind of family so far is the social media. So maybe because you're all over, like I know you might not, it's just incredible. And we're going to share some of that soon, but maybe again, touch on the stigma. And I know there's a lot of false conceptions, which I've been trying to destroy. I don't know if you know, Saul, because it's hard because the website's growing, but my big focus, honestly, the last few months with the shows has been all on females and women and Parkinson's, because I feel there's not enough attention to that topic. I mean, I even had Caitlin, who you likely know, who was telling me about being pregnant with Parkinson's. Guess what? In my opinion, I haven't seen that talked about, maybe, of course, from you. but I haven't seen that topic in the forefront, and it needs to be. There's so many important issues from children to, females that need to be, I think, brought to the forefront. So maybe, again, you could touch a little bit on those types of areas.
Well, part of the reason why women are not being studied enough in Parkinson's is the birth defects from the 60s, that study that was done. There's so many things like that that people are afraid of. So women of childbearing age don't get in the studies as much, obviously. However, that's not the only reason. We know that our doctors did not tell us that our meds don't work during certain times of the month, or that the hormones would even affect meds. That never came up for anyone until Gaynor Edwards, bless her soul, over there in the UK, started talking about it at least 8 or 9 years ago. And she's like, hey, did you notice? And I'm like, I sure did, but I didn't know what it was. So mystery solved on that one, or it's being solved. But in terms of social media, which I want to talk about first before stigma, I have a real love-hate relationship with social media. You can stand in public and take a video of someone without context and post anything you want. And everybody's a journalist now. Everybody's the paparazzi. Everybody wants to like be an influencer and do all this stuff. And they talk about all the things they've done and how they've had crowds of people and people recognize them and they're this and that. I went through all that too when I was first diagnosed, because there's certain personality types with each range. And I'm not shaming anybody. I love the attention that's brought to Parkinson's. In fact, I called someone today and I said, tell me how to say your name appropriately because I want to mention you. Someone who's newer than I, but who's done a tremendous amount of work for our community. Esther Labib Kiresh. Did I say that right?
Yeah, it's
I think I
funny you
did.
said that. She's literally my family, like our Mark and
Wonderful.
Melissa. And I'm actually talking to her tonight.
I love all of them. Well, Mel too, both Mels, and so many people who have influenced me in there. But I will say that Esther in particular has really been shining in terms of showing exactly what the symptoms do, what the meds do. She's very well organized. She's educated. Her background in healthcare has helped. I really just wanted to point her out as a really shining star. Her contributions are remarkable, and she gives credit where credit is due. When I was coming up, there was Shell Bell, which probably a lot of people haven't heard of because she doesn't like the limelight. There's Gaynor Edwards, there's Kevin Kwok, John Stamford from across the pond as well. You have the Cure Parkinson's Trust, which does amazing work and has a lot of researchers. Vicki Dillon, who donated her brain to science and let them GDNF trials. Sarah Ragar, scientist, she's amazing. Anders, don't worry about Anders, who did my film. It's all his work. He's part of the Norwegian broadcasting company. And then, of course, there's always Mike Aiken, Mike Q, that I do the podcast with. Mike Q is amazing. He's always changing it up. He finds incredible people to interview. So all of these people have influenced me. So when you talk about social media, I would be remiss not give them credit, There's Gene Burns, who we don't hear a lot from anymore, and Mike Aiken, because he's lost his voice. I don't want to forget about the people that brought me to this point, who brought me here, who lifted me and showed me the way and just sort of pointed in a direction of advocacy and away from just the flash of like, look at me on camera. I mean, a lot of the people that join into advocacy have never even been on camera before and don't know much about marketing or how they're appearing. And it becomes all about like sort of their branding. I want to keep it on Parkinson's, keep it on ALS, MS, MSA, PSA, things that cause people to suffer like Alzheimer's and dementia. I mean, my dad died of Alzheimer's and or dementia, as you know, they're very similar. And but I think, sorry, I get a little choked up. Vicinity to death helps you see that all that petty stuff, all the ego stuff, all the flash and pictures and the sparkle, it doesn't matter. How did I love? Did I love you well? Did I leave you better than I found you? So, but on to stigma. I was minding my own business trying to eat dinner at Olive Garden the other day. And some couples that came into the...
I love the all-you-can-eat bread and salad, sorry.
Me too. Although I'm celiac, so that's why I go there, because they always check that. Anywho, I was at off guard minding my own business, and as people were coming through the front door, they were seeing me wiggling around in my seat, right? And just then, the chef had sent some samples of wine out, and I don't drink. They didn't know that, so he had covered my table with a couple of glasses of little bits of wine, and I was ready to go. Like, no, but he'd walked away, the server. So I was like, no, no. And so the people are looking at me, looking at my glasses, and they're going, and they're pointing to their friends. I'm only guessing they thought that I was plastered, right? And they were like, look at this old lady. And then I stood up and I said, you're mean to somebody. And then they started taping me.
Hmm.
They followed me out to the parking lot, was afraid to get in my car. Oh, look, another Karen, a middle-aged woman eating alone. Call the authorities. Shocking, you know? And they were harassing me. This one kid looked like he wanted to fight me. I was like, dude, I was trying to eat. I was playing trivia. I like the trivia games. That's why I went there in the first place. And I know that I'm dyskinetic. I can see myself wobbling around. But really, what on earth are people thinking? Don't they have another hobby? You know, so they were recording me in the parking lot. So I stood next to a group of people who were developmentally disabled, because that's who was standing by the front door, and tried to chat with them. And they were probably like, get lost. Like, why are you talking to us? But I didn't feel safe. It was the first time in my life I didn't actually feel safe. So stigma can be dangerous. And that's my point. Like when I was in the emergency room, I believed that I was there because of stigma. Those young women who were the charge nurses at the time took one look at me and thought, addict. She's looking for painkillers. Meanwhile, my back was exploding. I needed emergency spinal surgery. I had cysts on my spine. I needed help. I was in trouble. They left me alone for 11 hours. Treating me like an animal. So stigma is not like, oh, you hurt my feelings. Stigma is dangerous. So thank you for your work on that as well.
Well, first I want to send our love and support for your loss of your mother and your loved one due to Alzheimer's and father, and also send love to everybody in the family. We're always thinking of you and fighting for you. And also, sorry you had to go through that. As you might know, I'm actually publishing next year another book. It's on policing in Parkinson's, which is, I think, going to break through our whole entire country. Something that I think is literally not spoken about, and that's
That's right.
it's a
You were a cop.
yeah, I'm a lawyer and a police officer.
Wow.
My PhD is in criminal justice, but I found, and I don't want to get into it, that's a different show, but there's a lot of people with Parkinson that are fear the police, and there's a lot of police who are not aware of Parkinson.
Oh, I
My,
mean,
my dream is to work with some big organization, hopefully the Michael J. Fox Foundation, and implement the word Parkinson's disease into every single police academy in the country. So that's what I'm
bless
hoping
you.
to
Oh,
do. But that's a different topic because that's more, I want to get back to you, but I'm going to share some things as we do this. I do want to keep our discussion going, but I'm in love with your website. And I know you said we haven't seen it in a while, but it's just beautiful to see something come alive like you have created. But before we get to all the social media and the incredible things you do, I do want to kind of bring up a tougher topic. I don't want all this to be tough. That's why toward the end we're going to have fun. But grief is something that, and constant loss, something you mentioned, but obviously I'm
mm.
still grieving. We were told, and I don't want to get too tough because I want this to be fun too, but we were told about 15 medical specialists and my mother that you don't die of Parkinson's, you die with it. However, my mother was 69, never had any medical issues in her life. So obviously every journey is different, but it's a tough topic, to talk about. And my mother was my best friend and always will be. So even, 4 years later, I'm still grieving. And to be honest, I do a lot of this. Number one, I don't want anyone to ever feel alone. Number two, I don't want anyone to go through what my mother or our family did. But most of all, the most important thing is I'm still grieving and this helps. So you don't might not realize it, but where you're just coming on today helps me more than you'll ever know. So again, I'm going to be forever grateful for that. But maybe you could kind of bring from your perspective what, the word, just the topic grief, because it's another, we're hitting some tough topics, which I love. That's what I like. That's why I love what you do, because I don't shy away from things. I hit them right, right in the stomach.
Yeah.
And you got to do that because guess what?
Yeah.
People will benefit and they'll stand up too, right behind you and by your side. But if you don't and you hide, not you, but if general, the
Right.
person just kind of keeps pushing it away and let's ignore it till it's too late, it's a problem. So first, maybe, again, there's a lot of loaded questions, but there's so much to talk. first maybe about grief and then about your beautiful website.
So grief, it reminds me of the famous line, other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? Like, did they die of the crash or did they die of the impact of the crash? Parkinson's most certainly does kill people. It just kills us the slowest, most painful way possible. It's torture. Parkinson's is a mercenary. It doesn't care what your plans are. And it affects each of us differently, of course, but I'm in the later stages and I'm finding myself crawling along the floor like an animal so often. Before this interview, full disclosure, I was sobbing. I hit my head upstairs. I sort of tripped down the stairs a little bit. I'm not supposed to be doing that when no one's around. Don't tell my mom.
I wish
I'm
I
in a
could send
house.
I'm sending a virtual hug because I can't give a real one.
I'm in a house. It's not adapted yet for Parkinson's. I've just moved from the West Coast to the East Coast. I also find that it's really hard to live alone.
Mhm.
My cat is a dog, basically, or he thinks he is. So he's a lot of fun, but it's not quite the same thing as a person to turn to and say, hey, did you see that?
Mhm.
A touchstone. So it's been kind of hard. Um, what I would say about the website, by the way, just to go back and forth like I do because I'm a divergent thinker.
Okay.
Anders did that film and he's amazing. You should check out his work. What an incredible man. Such an eye. He did the dating for Parkinson's thing too. And the anger one. By the way, I want to talk about anger later if we can.
Of course.
Oh yeah, I should make these a little less blurry.
Mhm.
These pictures.
They're beautiful.
I have a lot of paintings.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
glad you.
I don't know if you know, but we just started a section at togetherforSharon.com highlighting artists who have Parkinson's around the world. And again, everything, I don't know if you, I think you might know, but I don't accept money. Like, please don't send us any. We do support other organizations. They drive toward a cure, Michael J. Fox Foundation, and some of the major ones. Or I really support everyone, but we don't. If you send me $1, I send it back, which costs me another $1. So, but we do. So I started this because so many people have lost their livelihood due to Parkinson's, and I really wanted them to be able to fund money for their own medicines. I don't think anyone should ever have to pay for Parkinson's medicine. So we highlight like 20 or 30 amazing artists. I hope someday we can add you. And, it's literally, I'm just kind of, I always say a conduit where it's just, please don't contact me. Just go to the artists like you and support you. So everyone listening again, please go to KathleenKiddo.com and see some incredible art. I mean, you could spend 20, 30 hours here, which I probably have. And I just subscribed as we, this morning. So you can also subscribe. And that's actually leads me to another question. Can you explain Kathleen Kiddo? Because when I first heard about you or learned about the amazing things you do, I didn't know if that was your name or Heather. And then I'm like, how do I find her? Because I was looking and you can't email, Kathleen. So maybe you could talk. Is it almost like a Beyonce thing where she has a different personnel?
The artist formerly known as Prince
Right.
or Max Q,
For
which is
me,
Michael Hutchins.
I'm Sharon's son George. I'm not George. So.
Right,
And I'll
right.
just, you can ignore this, but I'm going to show your website as you speak.
So the name for me came because someone kept saying to me, why are you going so Kill Bill? So I was so angry about having Parkinson's. I was angry I was going through a divorce. I was angry that there was infidelity on both sides in my marriage. I was angry with a lot of things. And my friend kept saying, wow, you're going Kill Bill. And Beatrix Kiddo happens to be the lead in the movie Kill Bill, written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. You love him or hate him, he does the homages to all these old movies. People say he rips them off. No, he's doing an homage. He's basically bowing to like Fellini and all the greats. Like in Pulp Fiction, there's so many, in comic books and all kinds of Westerns. What I loved about Beatrix Kiddo is that she doesn't take herself too seriously. I mean, she's a comic book character. And so I thought, well, if she had a cousin, maybe she could be Kathleen. That's my middle name. So it stuck. My friends started calling me that as a joke. And so I just used it. I thought it was kind of fun.
I love it. And I really appreciate the explanation. I figured it out, but I still wanted everybody listening to learn. Now, there's some other tough topics I like to cover, and then I want to get a little lighter after that. But number one is DBS. maybe you could tell us about what it is about it. I've had some amazing guests who actually had the button, touched it, and showed us, obviously I don't want to do that, but my mother kind of was scared of it, didn't really want to talk about it. And obviously it doesn't help everyone the same. She didn't have external tremors in the beginning. She did towards the end. So I think again, it would help more with that, but maybe you could, because yeah, again, you have more experience than me. You could touch a little bit on DBS first, and then I want to get
Sure.
into a few more topics. Thank you.
Quick disclaimer, it is not the fault of my doctors, nor the company that provided this system that's within my brain. It is not the surgeon's fault. I'm going to give complete, I'll give them a hall pass. They did the best they could with the stuff that they worked with. I should have been awake for my surgery. I should not have listened to the woman who talked me into this. She was hired, maybe she's a rep for the company, I don't know. She was a nurse there, and she said, "We can help you. You'll be able to dance again." I lost all my rhythm. I've lost my balance. I was so much happier before this, but I have GPI, not STN. So I wasn't able to lower my meds. And that's the kicker. But I was afraid, and it wasn't my choice. That was their choice. The surgeons, neurologists chose that. I didn't choose GPI, they did. My concern, though, was with STN, I could lose my voice. I'm good friends with Mike Aiken, Mike Q, and a lot of people who've had all kinds of problems with their vocal cords since DBS. And Parkinson's doesn't help with that either, as we know. And I love to sing, and I was just afraid. So I went along with the GPI. But what I would say is it freezes me. Does it stop the worst of the dystonic fits and the dystonia, the involuntary muscle contractions? Yes. But it also freezes me. So right now I have it very low because I wanted to be able to talk with you and be, have some facial expressions instead of that audience is sort of like this, which is what happens when I turn it up. So it's a tough one. It has its benefits, but I wouldn't do it again.
No,
But, everybody's different. I've heard all the bad stories now. I wish people would do a little more research. They think it's going to be like the catch-all and it's going to fix them. I just wish they'd do a little more research first. That's all.
I appreciate the honesty and the advice. And the toughest thing is you mentioned is every journey so different, everybody's so different. So I think, like you said, the best thing to do is research for yourself. So thank you. And
I
it's
haven't
just,
seen these images in so long.
I love
Once you're
them.
showing, I never check my site.
Actually kind of sends me
That's
for
funny.
for a minute. I just want everyone to also, and I'm gonna have to do it as I'm already subscribed, so I'm already a fan. But please go to the website. You can find it youtube.com. Actually, you can go to Kathleen Kiddo again and go to the very bottom. It's a little easier and click on X. Now it's called X, and even that. See, it used to be Twitter. We have to update that. I didn't do it either. But then you can also follow Heather on X, or every week they change the name. I follow you, and then also YouTube is very important. We just started YouTube. It's called the Parkinson's Connection, and I share everyone I know in the Parkinson's community completely free on one site. And the goal is that they all go to your YouTube and subscribe. I don't care about mine, but I want people to know that you have a you have a subscription, and also everybody should be joining. I want every person with Parkinson's or in the community to have over 10 million followers. So until that happens, I'm not going to stop. So anyway,
Oh,
everybody,
thank
please,
you.
please go again to, I keep saying Kathleen, Heather's, to, YouTube and X. And then one other last area I wanted to touch on is the Davis Phinney Foundation. I know you've touched and mentioned many on your site. Was there a reason that you kind of chose to support them? Not the most,
Yes.
but, and also that you have your own show, which I love. And I hope everyone also will go to Davis Phinney Foundation and see your show. And also, here it is. I love it. And listen and share that too. So please support Heather and the Davis Phinney Foundation as much as you can. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about, that opportunity and how you got to that. And then we'll wrap up there and switch to I want to see some more smiles.
Thank you. There is a new person on the round table at the Davis Phinney that meets once a month too. By the way, her name is Sharon. Check her out. She's cool. She's got her own video that's been published too. Really kind of neat. But Davis Phinney, What a man. What a family. Do you know his daughter-in-law just won the Tour de France?
Huh?
That's Taylor's wife, you know? I can't believe it. What a talented family.
Mhm.
The reason I'm not starstruck, by the way, at all.
I'm starstruck by you, by the way. Yeah, I had to throw
Well,
that in.
well, I want to keep passing that off to the people that helped me. There's so much, they've done so much more. But I will say this, Davis is real. And together with his wife, they have a platform that helps us live better now. I used to give a lot of time and energy and money to other organizations that are doing research that I will never see. And I'm happy to do that for future generations. And I participate in research studies as well. But Davis Phinney helps us live better now. Their platform is all about that. Polly is brilliant. She runs the joint along with Davis and his wife and a host of characters that are just wonderful. I get to work with Chris. I get to work with Cat Hill. I mean, these are my friends. They're like family. My cat's name is Finney. I really love that organization and they treat you so nice. One time I was stuck in a hotel. They sent someone to come get me, brought me fresh clothes, drove me to the airport, and waited by the gate till I got on my flight. Now that I wasn't even working for them at the time. That's giving back to the community right there. They put their money where their mouth is. So that's why I spread. Also, the World Parkinson Congress. I'm a big fan.
I hope we get a
Like,
chance to meet. I'm hoping to attend in Arizona. That would be amazing. As long as my back,
yes, me
I
too.
don't know,
I miss
it's probably,
Barcelona.
I've had 4 back surgeries myself, so it's tough to travel, but we can talk about that on another show too.
Back
So,
surgery, thumbs down, no stars.
well, the good thing for me is that I care more about all of you. So even literally woke up from the surgery from the bed and I got my phone, started saying, F this, let's get back to advocacy for a cure for Parkinson. If you look online,
Those
that's
painkillers made you happy. You're like, I can do this now. You're still
I,
flat out on your back.
well, I do again want to thank you on all that. Such incredible information. The last question, and then I wanted to kind of shift to some I call fun but really interesting. I think you'll enjoy it. But last 2 topics, which are also tough, that should be talked more about, is sexuality and disability. As an attorney in Florida and Washington D.C., I'm actually also working on another book in the future. And I don't accept money for these books. We donated it all back to the Parkinson's community, but I see an area in the law that is another one. You talk about policing, but law, no offense to the lawyers out there, but it's expensive to go speak to a lawyer. I don't want you to have to pay, $300 an hour. So I'm
Yeah.
going to be putting a book out with a few individuals. One is a lawyer who has Parkinson's. Another 2 are individuals with Parkinson's, but we're going to be talking about ADA laws. And
When will those be released? I need to look at those.
yeah, unfortunately, well, for you, you have 24/7 free lawyer for me, but will probably be a few years because there's so much other things working on. But again, I wanted to kind of touch on these topics because I don't see them anywhere. So maybe you could talk about sexuality and Parkinson's and specifically disability, because I've spoken with so many who unfortunately lost their employment due to Parkinson's and they didn't know who to turn to. It's almost like they were diagnosed a second time and felt, hopeless and alone. So maybe we could finally wrap up on that and then get to some fun things.
I can't speak too much about disability. In fact, I might have to take a pass on that because I
That's
can't even get disability.
well, that's why it's important to say that, because
Yeah, I can't get it.
yeah, I don't know what state you're in, but we need everyone out there to write to your legislators right now after you listen to this and help support, Heather and everyone out there. And that's the huge way to change, the national plan to end Parkinson passed. But to me, it's not really a celebration yet. Now is where the work begins. Now is where we have to actually ensure the representatives are doing something,
Yeah.
it's great, it's passed, what to do, but this is where it actually has to be implemented. And I feel that this is where we all need to start working harder for the
We
plan.
have to work where we are.
Yeah.
Although there are people who are hurting tremendously
Right.
in other countries, we have to start where we are. So thank you for that.
No, I appreciate it. And then, so sexuality, that's a topic again.
Yeah,
The
that I
I
can
don't,
speak about a little bit.
yeah.
I think it's important to remember that people who are disabled, such as myself, are whole individuals. We're still juicy. We still have all the feelings. We're just trapped in our body. Our body becomes a cage in the case of Parkinson's. I work with also some developmentally disabled adults and people with other challenges. And as you know, there are comorbidities that come along with Parkinson's as well. One of them can be a mental health problem, and that comes with a tremendous amount of stigma. Jennifer Sullivan does a great job of talking about sexuality and Parkinson's. I just love her work. She's so much fun. And there are a number of new advocates that are very plain spoken about it. I really like how they talk. I think it's important to know that it's just a natural thing and it gives us dopamine. It's a point of intention to be intimate with another human being. And we don't get touched enough. I kind of want to branch off from sexuality real quick to just say touch in and of itself is healing. Getting those massages, make sure you hug other people, being around people. Don't isolate yourself because it would be easy to do. You know, like I said, I went out to dinner and people are staring at me. That's a lot of energy. Like, it's exhausting to just leave the house and be able to tie your shoes.
Yeah.
But sexuality need not be perfect. There are a number of, accoutrements. I always start laughing. People talk about the vibrating gloves. I'm like, wait a minute. What are you really talking about? Vibrating gloves? Oh yeah, that's right. For Parkinson's, it's different. Or is it? I think the biggest sex organ's right here. So all we really need to do is hone in on that and keep doing what we're doing with our exercise and eating right and living healthy, but engage in your fantasies, people. As the world breaks down around us, where else do we have to go? Why not? And just keep being open about it, talk to people about it, and get a therapist for goodness sakes. That's what I said to myself. I'm talking to myself here.
I do that.
I just think it's a good idea to talk about it and have fun, play, experiment. What do you have to lose?
Well, I think these topics are so important, and I'm glad you brought them up and keep continually bringing them up. I think you know so much, you should have a show. Just get ready to. I love it, but I do hope we could do this again because it's so. I mean, each of these topics could be an hour long because I think that they're so important, and I don't think again they're discussed enough. So thanks for your honesty, your openness, and your willingness to kind of tackle these areas. This is now where we shift to, if I had the soundboard, which I tried, and there's too many wires, so I gave up. I would put the drum roll. But this is where we get to kind of, it's not an easy thing to go through, whether you're a caregiver or someone diagnosed. I always say Parkinson doesn't discriminate, could affect anyone around the world, and it also affects the caregivers, the community, and your family. But I do want to kind of shift to you. So more about Heather. Can you list 3 words that describe who you are?
Creative, scattered right now.
I love it.
And um, kind.
I appreciate that. What is one moment or one most memorable moment that stands out through most of your work with awareness that you could share? I know it's tough to get to one, but if you can.
Oh, being on stage with researchers that blew my mind. Like, what am I doing here? I remember at the World Parkinson's Congress in Kyoto, looking to my right and left and going, I have no business being up here. How did I get but they give patients a voice. And those are the organizations that I want to support. So I want to thank them for that. And also, I've been able to meet the most brilliant minds. These people should have bodyguards with them.
Mhm.
Like at the Cure Parkinson's Trust, when they came across the street to do karaoke with us, I'm like, you guys should have bodyguards with you. Your brains are worth a lot. Mine, not so much. So yeah, I think it's just meeting incredible people like you,
Well, thanks.
kind people.
Well, I appreciate it, and I send the same right back at you. Now there's another area that kind of hits me home and my favorite question, but I try sometimes to bring the people behind the scenes into the forefront because a lot of times they don't get credit. So I have just 2 questions. First one, who helps you during times of struggle? And the second part is, as you know, I was a caregiver. What tips can you give those listening who might be caregivers?
Wow. As you know, Parkinson's affects families in a way that's usually, it impacts us negatively. And it's really hard, just like Alzheimer's and a number of other things, cancer. My family helps me. My best friends help me. Nancy and Kelly and Lena. I mean, there's so many. Anna, so many people have helped me. I don't even know where to begin.
Mhm.
Um, I guess what I would say is I have been given more than I can ever repay. I'm in my mother's house. She's waiting until I sell my home back in California to charge me anything. She's still paying for this. The woman's in her 80s. I should take care of her. I'm lucky enough to be loved limitlessly. I'm loved unconditionally, which allows me to give that to others. I'm so lucky. Cat Hill talks to me a lot when I'm upset. You know the person that you see that you trust the most that you can come unglued around? I have a lot of those good friends. I have my Jodies, East Coast and West Coast Jodies. There's one Jody here on the East Coast. I've known her since kindergarten.
Well,
My friend Sonia. So many people. I'm lucky.
I'll never forget that we also have your back, and I'll be fighting right by your side till we find a cure. But we also send our love to your mom and thank her too for at least she gets extra beautiful artwork around the room if she's keeping it in.
Yeah.
But we send our love to her and all your friends and family who are again behind the scenes that I think need to also be thanked on a daily basis. So we're going to do that. And we're going to dedicate today in their memory what they do, and also your dad. So thank you. Next area, which is a tougher one. I don't want to put you on the spot, but is there something, and I think I know the answer, but is there something you might have done differently looking back 10 years ago?
Oh,
I have a feeling I know what.
oh my gosh. I was so all about me and me being fit. And Parkinson's gonna be so easy. Excuse my French, but bull beep. Like, no.
I like that.
Parkinson's is brutalizing. The older folks, the people that have been there before and been there, done that, were probably looking at me going, girl, you just wait. You just wait. Because that train's coming and it gets bigger and bigger and harder. That mountain's coming in at your gate. That's what that movie was about. I can feel it coming. It's huge and I can't get past it. It will take me. That shadow will take me eventually. So knowing this is like memento mori, like my tattoo says. Knowing you will die is actually a good thing. This is not morbidity I'm talking. This is not a bummer. This is, hey, let's live better now. So that's kind of the thing, people who get upset when we talk about death, like I do death cafes and I work with death doulas sometimes in a very volunteer capacity. I mean, I'm just a volunteer. They get upset and I'm like, why wouldn't we talk about death? Ram Dass said it best. And I love this quote. I say it every time. We're all just walking each other home. I don't have time to fight or to cut anybody off or hurt anyone. I really want to make sure that we know that. Just be a little gentler, even with the difficult people. Doesn't mean we invite them into our lives, but forgiveness. I hope that answers the question. I'm being a little vague.
No, it's perfect. I appreciate it. This one is even if you think that one was tough, here's a tougher one. If you were asked to write a script to a movie about your life story, what would you call it? That's not that tough.
Not what I had planned.
That's a good title.
Or are you kidding me?
I love
What
it.
the?
Bleep, 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 bleep.
Are you serious?
That's awesome. Well, we got to get that done now. That's the hard part. I like, we're coming, unfortunately, closing to the end, which again, I can think of 200 more questions. I hope we do get an opportunity to meet again. And again, I'll always be here for you 24/7. So you always have a phone and a text and an email if you ever need anything. So don't ever think differently. One question which I wasn't going to ask is like you kind of answered because you live, breathe, and do this. But what do you think some methods or ways we can bring more awareness to Parkinson's? One thing I do, I've been on not my show, but I went on 100 shows for the national plan. But I literally, and I hate saying the word target, but my brain, when I talk to myself like you said you do, I said, George, we love the Parkinson's community, but the only way we're going to bring a cure is by reaching people who do not have Parkinson's and people who aren't aware and have no clue about it, like not caregivers. So that's what I did. I went on literally 100 shows, which are available free. That was not easy on togetherforsharon.com, but curious. And also the other thing is working together and being with you today. I don't think you'll ever know how much it means to me and the world. So this is going to not be shared one time. I always say this can't end today. We might have had an amazing, I think, conversation. I'm biased because I love you, but I think this has to be shared like literally 7, 8 times, a month. And I'm not going to do that because everyone will get tired of me. But I think it can end here. Obviously, until we find a cure, we have to keep keeping this conversation going. So back to the main question. How do you think we can, besides what you're already accomplishing, which is basically more than a lifetime someone could do, how do you think we can kind of break the barriers and get more awareness for Parkinson's disease?
I don't know that we can get more awareness for Parkinson's, but I believe that empathy and compassion and let's just be plain, relatability can happen. If we could all, human beings in general, just pause and see that everyone is hurting in some way that we cannot know. For example, when I look at someone and they're giving me the stink eye or whatever they're doing, I don't say, why are they doing that to me? Maybe initially. Initially, I'll go, hey, back at you. But upon
New York
reflection,
response, the New York
yeah,
response.
exactly. Exactly. Upon reflection, though, I think, how are they hurting? If we could just put that pause in there, that's why I put this painting up. If we just put that time out, that little tiny pause, instead of making up the story that our ego likes to fill in all the blanks, like, well, they must be this, or they're a bad person. No, they're just struggling.
Yeah.
There are very few sociopaths and psychopaths,
I
at
don't
least
know,
that I've known.
yeah, hopefully you just don't know them, but I
They
actually teach,
exist. Oh, they're there.
I teach criminology, and that's the study of crime and behavior. That's a different show too,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
maybe we could talk, we should have a show on crime shows and also at Parkinson's, but like crime shows.
I do stay up at night watching those. I admit it. They're not good for sleep.
No, but they are important, so you at least take care of yourself. But I
Yeah.
love that answer. Again, I hate that we have to wrap up soon, and I don't hate a lot of things. I do hate Parkinson's. I hate what it does to everyone, and I hate that you have to still battle it. Hate that, it took my mother, because it's even now, I might be 6'2", almost 200 pounds in policing, but it's not easy to even talk about. And I don't know if you know, but reason I picked the cover for the book Son's Journey, which is literally a memory of my mother, but for those people today fighting, is because that was my wedding. It was the mother and son dance. And it was one of my favorite moments of my life. And in those 3 moments, Parkinson didn't exist and it didn't matter. And it could literally never take that memory from us. So that's the one, memory that I'll never forget. And that's why we do this. We have to keep doing it. We have to remember her and remember that she did, I think, lost about 15 years of her life alive and 15 after, because on my weird world, 2024, we should be living till like, 90 or something.
And for your kids too. I have 2 children that I don't mention a lot because I don't
Right.
want them to have to feel like they're Parkinson's kids. But you have 3, right?
Yeah. And that's another topic we need a whole hour on, because,
Yeah.
I'm writing a book on kids, but it's actually going to be from my mother's voice talking to her 3 grandchildren, which is very hard because I can't talk for my mother. So that's going to be
Stuff speaks.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, my mother's favorite time was blowing bubbles in the backyard on Sunday with her 3 grandchildren. And I'm looking right now. I can't turn the camera, but I'm seeing the backyard, and we can't do that anymore. But that's why I do this, because you can't forget. You have to keep remembering, or it will fade, and she will be forgotten. So I don't want that. But on a final note, to wrap up, if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be? Like, are you speechless?
Everything is temporary. You got this. This too shall pass. We're just a little bleep on the screen. Everything's always changing. If you have those moments where you're like, oh, I can't handle this, it will pass. I promise. That much I know.
Well, I
You're
love
not
that.
alone.
No, I love that, and I guarantee you'll never be. Your little bleep will be there for to remember. But I'm going to explode the bleep to make it huge and remember. So I do want to, I have a little message for you. Before that, I want to thank you. How can everyone reach you? And please, everyone, right now, drop what you're doing, because it only takes a minute. Contact your legislators. Tell them you want to support everything that Heather does, but the national plan has to be moved forward, and it's going to be up to all of us to do that. Please go to KathleenKiddo.com. Please go to the Davis Phinney Foundation and watch and support and share and listen to Heather's podcast and the YouTube, which I'm going to share, and I subscribe, and to X. But there's so many ways to reach her, and she's so amazing to respond, because she has a lot of things going on and moving and things, but she still always makes time for us. And that's something that'll stay in my heart forever. But if you can, just one last thing, this one's for you. I think the music should come on, but I don't have that technology. Yeah.
Love the
I'll
music.
probably, well, as a lawyer, I'll get sued for copyright too. So that's another story. We love you. We support you. We care a lot about you, and you're never alone. I, along with Heather, will advocate for you, and I feel together our voices are so much stronger. And I always end with, I'm just getting started, because even though I really haven't, but I feel like literally when I saw what you do and all the your amazing work and everything you do, it's like literally some days, like, you feel like a truck might have rolled over you, like always I feel,
Yes.
because you're just working and family, and but then you realize that there's individuals like you still battling, and I just decide to jump right up and keep fighting. But you inspire me and so many, and I'm so grateful today for our time and friendship. And I consider you family, and I do hope that we can do this again in the future.
You just made my day and my week and my month and my year so much better. Thank you.
I hope we can keep that feeling going. And if you ever
Do
do
it.
have those tough times, especially everyone too listening, because this is all about you too and for you, you're never alone. I'm always there along with Heather, and we're both fighting for you. And again, we send our love. So this has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. Please, again, this conversation can end now. We have to keep fighting. We have to get up on even the tough days, keep exercising, keep moving, and go paint. I stink. I can't even
Oh,
make a stick figure, but look at Heather.
have
She's like,
fun.
That's going to be
Play.
in the, I'm waiting for that to be in the New York Metropolitan and all the national, all the beautiful art galleries there. And this New Yorker just sends our love and welcome to the East Coast. I love it. I don't know if I do that.
Forget.
That's also another show for another day. We can talk. I didn't do it during caregiving or during advocacy because we don't have time. We just have too much more. And as I always say, think about others too, because we're all out there as a family in this fight. So thanks again, everyone. We send our love, and please stay tuned. So much more to come. Love you all.